Cars that said, "Let the good times roll," and the good times are certainly rolling in Queens as the Mets swept round one of the Subway Series as the Grimaces are drinking beer during rain delays. Everything's just going right for the New York Mets and their fans as this is episode number 22 of the Queens Connection, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am the host, Andrew Patton, joined as always by the co-host, Mr. Corne Hogeveen. Corne, hello. Looks like I see the sun shining through in that room of yours with all your beautiful Mets hangings, bobbleheads, whatever you got rocking and rolling in there. So just
And a
I think
couple of familiar jerseys
that's right.
hanging here.
But I feel like it's a fitting it's fitting to have the sun shining on all that Mets stuff.
Ah, right. That's where you wanted to go with it. Uh, yeah, it's good weather here. Mostly the curtains are closed here because I think it's better for the items to not have the sun on it. But yeah, when we talk, we have to need some light because we have to see each other, just so we know when someone wants to talk or something like that. So yeah, perfect that it's shining on Met stuff right now, and maybe a little bit less on Yankee stuff. I don't have Yankee stuff, by the way, but maybe somewhere there's a guy sitting in the dark. So then, then it would be a perfect way.
No doubt about that. As the Mets' hot June continues on with that sweep of the Yankees in round one of the Subway Series, like I mentioned. So let's just jump right into this here. A 9-7 win in game one. And uh, a bit of an interesting game because it was, I guess someone said it was almost a tone setter with David Peterson getting into that jam in the first inning and then with the bases loaded with no outs, and then striking out three straight batters. The Mets came in the bottom of the half, got a run against Garrett Cole, and it just took off from there with this Mets offense that put up 9 runs, 4 home runs off Garrett Cole, two of which off the bat of Mark Vientos. It did get a little dicey there at the end, uh, particularly in that eighth inning, where the Yankees put up a 5 spot after grabbing a run in the seventh. So got a little too close for comfort there, but the Mets were able to just close it out and pick up the 9-7 win to begin the Subway Series 2024 edition. A lot of talking points in this game. I mean, where do you want to go with? We got the Vientos two home run game. We got David Peterson's odd outing a little bit. The walks were high, but also the strikeouts were high for him in this game. What's a direction that you think that you really want to start at with this game one of the Subway Series?
Always pitching, Andrew. You never have to ask. Always start with pitching. That's what we love. David Peterson, that first inning. I mean, you're also facing some tough hitters in that first inning, and after without the Yankees, we have to mention that the Yankees didn't have Giancarlo Stanton, didn't, who always kills us. Maybe even when he gets older, he always seems to hit bombs of us. So, um, getting around Soto and Judge was probably what the Mets did best, with walking them in the games, because when they didn't, they were pretty darn good in the series. They both, but the rest of the Yankees lineup, um, weren't not very good. I think Verdugo hit in a couple of double plays in the second game, struck out a couple of times in big moments. JD Davis, obviously, striking out against the lefty. High ball hitter JD Davis, by the way. Kudos to Keith Hernandez for mentioning JD Davis as a high ball hitter, which, in my view, isn't necessarily the case. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think you can get JD Davis with high fastballs. I think every Mets fan will probably say and agree that you can get JD Davis on a high fastball.
I believe you alluded to that in our last episode.
Yeah, I think I did. Yes. Uh, so yeah, that was something I found pretty funny. Um, but Peterson getting out of the first inning jam, he did walk some guys. He struck out 8, if I remember correct, in 4 1/3, or 4 2/3, whatever it was. But yeah, he walked 5. Is that also true? All off the top of my head, Andrew. That's pretty darn impressive on my part. So so yeah, that's a lot of base runners and it's a lot of pitches. So unfortunately, he couldn't go deep, but I think you still take that, especially after that first inning, could be a lot worse. So eventually, he settled down, gave us at least some innings, um, and the bullpen, although struggled a bit at the end, did enough.
Yeah, and you talk about that bullpen. Gotta give credit to Deadnell Nunez yet again. Maybe we should start calling him the Grim Reaper because every time he comes in, the batter is dead.
Yeah.
Deadnell Nunez. You see where I'm going there? Trying to be creative with that. I don't think you really like that one very much.
Uh, I didn't figure it out at first what you meant with that. So then it's always, but it's more my fault than yours. I have to say that it was my fault. I should have gotten that one, and then it was better.
Wow. Well, if you had come up with it, I think you would have been more patting yourself on the back with it rather than me, who's just being more humble about it. Because that's what I am, humble.
Yeah, you are extremely humble.
It's
So maybe a little bit too humble for
maybe.
my liking. Yeah, absolutely.
But Deadnell Nunez did do the job. Eight, 2 2/3 innings out of the bullpen. One hit, 1 run that was unearned. He had 2 strikeouts, and with this, picked up his first major league win. So that's an interesting note from this game. Something else we talked about the bullpen here. Maybe um, this is the game to talk about it because obviously this was the first game of the DS suspension. Later got the news that um, Drew Smith was going on the IL. That was before game 2 of this series. So you're arguably down your top 2 closer, uh, guys. Um, so you're gonna have to really piece some stuff together. And Ottavino wasn't great on Tuesday night. Danny Young did get some base runners against him. Reed Garrett did allow the grand slam to Aaron Judge to make it the 9-7 game. Garrett did have a easy ninth inning, which is always good to see. But I think some of the potential issues that we thought could happen with Diaz being out, just kind of figuring out how you're going to close out games. Um, I'm not going to say they were on display Tuesday night, but I think we saw some of the reasons to maybe be a little bit concerned about how the Mets bullpen's going to go these next now what is it 8 games without Edwin Diaz and Drew Smith, and should also mention Sean Reed Foley's out as well. He's been pitching really good of late. The good news with Reed Foley is that it sounds like when he's eligible to come back, he will be back. Um, but in the meantime, um, guys like Reed Garrett are going to be called on to probably get the saves. Ottavino, he's been in a weird role in this month. So now maybe do you try to is he going to be in more high leverage spots than he has been the past couple of weeks? So just the way they piece together this bullpen, it's something to watch in these next stretch of games here.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, Danny Young didn't have a great series, who obviously was pretty darn good before he returned. So, um, Ottavino, you mentioned it in a blowout game and getting a quick hook. I think a walk and a hit and 1 out when with a pretty big lead when he was gone. So that was a telling point again that Adam Ottavino is still not necessarily that high in the high leverage situations pick for uh, Carlos Mendoza. I think it's Diekman, Garrett, um, maybe Danny Young a little bit earlier, and Daniel Nunez, who probably right now are your main guys. And obviously, this bullpen, I think every bullpen would take a bit of a hit when you lose 3 good arms. Definitely, your depth definitely takes a hit. Um, but we'll see what Adcock can do. A guy who has been pretty darn good 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, when I looked into him for Seattle. So, um, we have seen all type of bullpen arms being brought up by this organization this year, and I think most of them have been um, pretty good, at least showing some kinds of good. We have seen it with Josh Walker, Daniel Nunez, Danny Young, all guys who have helped us. So maybe it's a time, maybe it's a way to have somebody else step up in this role and in this time. But obviously, losing three, if you add Rayleigh, four big bullpen arms out of your bullpen, I think it's never a good thing for any team.
Definitely not, especially with how good Brooks really was in the month of April against righties and lefties. So that was obviously a big loss, and the hits have been coming a little bit to this Mets bullpen, but the hits have also been coming for Mark Vientos too. Let's jump on the Vientos train here from this first game with the two home runs, the two solo shots off Garrett Cole. We know Garrett Cole's still working his way back, but the fact is he hit two home runs off the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. Um, I mean, this is what we've been seeing with Vientos. Going back to that Chicago series, or the last game of that Chicago series when he hit the monster home run, he technically hit a home run in three straight at bats. So he's been displaying the power a lot lately. The defense has improved this year. You still see the hiccups in the field every now and then, which I think it's still fair to question if he's going to be at third base long term. But we know the bat's going to play at the major league level. Um, but just this rise of Mark Vientos. I know you were a bit more hesitant about him than I was, perhaps. Coming into the season about uh, the chase rates and everything like that, because those were high. Those have definitely been lowered this year. Um, so just this, it's just been we had the month of Escobar back in September of 2022. I think it's fair to say that June has perhaps been the month of Vientos.
Yeah, it could be. I think he definitely has taken that spot, and I think his third base play overall has been good enough um, to warrant him at third. Maybe if he just fields routine double play balls better, then because that's probably the only thing he's done not good so far in the field. He made a great play on a diving stop on the backhand in this series. But then the double play, the routine double play ball he barged. I think that's the second time in a short time that he gets a pretty easy double play ball, and he booted that. So if he can cover that, that's actually the easier play. So it's probably something um, that he can figure out. So yeah, overall, I'm actually pretty impressed with his defense. I didn't expect it to be at least average from Mark Vientos. Uh, Seeing some fielding percentage in the minor leagues, I think in 1 year he had even a fielding percentage under 900. And I know fielding percentage isn't saying a lot, but it's not like Mark Vientos is known for a great range. So having a fielding percentage under 900 didn't necessarily got me, so much confidence. So I always saw him as a designated hitter, and his strikeout rate was just too high for me to see him as a designated. Obviously, as a designated hitter, you have to be a great hitter, and I had my doubts if he's capable of doing that. But one, his defense has surprised me and has been better than I expected. So that obviously makes him more playable, and then also the bat. He has limited his strikeouts, and he's always been capable of hitting the ball hard, and that's exactly what we are seeing.
I want to ask you your opinion on this because we see Brett Beatty down at AAA right now, who's just tearing it up. You have to figure he'll be back at some point this season. But with the way Vientos has gone, we've seen Beatty have stretches of success at the major league level. I mean, the whole month of April, Beatty was really solid. Obviously, then things kind of fell off in May. So I'm not ready to say they have a logjam at third base, but you got two guys. Vientos is maybe proving himself a little bit more, but we know there's another level in Brett Beatty. We just haven't gotten the consistency out of it like we've been seeing with Mark Vientos. What do you do if you're New York Mets between those two guys? I mean, you can easily say, next year if JD Martinez walks, you can just have Vientos be your DH, give Beatty another shot third base. But there's also the Ronnie Mauricio factor too. Just not for this year. That's more of a next year and future thing. So you got bodies there. You also got guys in the minor leagues, like a Luis Angel Acuna, who's been playing more second base, center field, shortstop. But you figure, that those are places that Ronnie Mauricio could play as well if you wanted to find a way to have Mauricio, Vientos, and Beatty in the lineup with Beatty at third or Vientos at third, the other one DH. And so there's a lot of young guys who are working their way through the system or at the major league level, establishing themselves but perhaps not having enough positions to fit everyone in. So it's a really interesting decision, or for David Stearns, the player development, all those guys, how to maneuver these bodies and find ways to get them their at bats at a potential major league level, or just continue to develop them. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's something that it's interesting to monitor these next couple of months and in the off season.
It's definitely a good problem to have. Right now, it's for me, it's a little bit too early to make drastic decisions in that department. We see what that Beatty is playing second base in AAA, so I think that's the way you are trying to get at bats. I think Jeff McNeil, uh, maybe there's a chance that Jeff McNeil um, is going somewhere else if he keeps this up. I don't know if you saw something I retweeted on X. Does it still be called retweeted, by the way, or is it now shared on
Like
X?
repost it or whatever. Everyone still
Oh,
calls it Twitter, whatever. So
yeah,
we know what you're talking
repost.
about.
I reposted it, and it showed the month of June that you had 9 hitters who are absolutely hitting the cover of the baseball, and then Jeff McNeil who had a um, terrible month. So, and Jeff McNeil hasn't been necessarily great, so I think time for Jeff McNeil is running out. I don't think that's now because Beatty doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience at second base, but I think the Mets are definitely trying um, to bring up their position players being able to play all around the field. We now see it with Beatty, we see it with Acuna, we see it with Jet Williams. Um, all those guys have played multiple positions. So, for example, I could see Luis Angel Acuna, be partly second, give Lindor maybe a day at short where Lindor can DH and be in center and then move around a little bit like Ben Zobrist did. So I don't necessarily think in the future you might not have Luis Angel Acuna as a so-called everyday player on one spot, but an everyday player moving around. And I think it definitely helps if you still have guys like Starling Marte um, to have a bench player that is that good, be able to move things around and help other players get rest. And we also don't know what happens with Pete. I mean, if Pete goes, then Mark Vientos probably plays first, and you have Beatty at second. Sorry, at third, and Mauricio at second. I mean, there's a lot of things um, it can go, and yeah, there could be so much. There could be not a lot of moving parts, but it could be a lot of moving parts, and people playing at different positions than they might be doing right now. And it's what we'll see. I think it's too early to say what I would do.
Well, definitely something to monitor as the next month, I would say, as the trade deadline approaches. Despite the Mets being a game out of the wild card spot, you keep seeing these MLB insiders or whatever still floating potential Pete Alonso trades and stuff like that. So, uh, for David Stearns weighing the winning now compared to winning next year, the year after, the years after that, it's going to be an interesting decision for David Stearns. We know he was crucified might be too much of a strong word, but he got a lot of pushback when he traded Josh Hader when the Brewers were in first place, I believe, just a couple of years ago, and because was looking at more of the future than the now. And in a place like Milwaukee, and he was getting all the backlash, and a place like New York, he may never hear the end of it. So, obviously, I would say, don't get peer pressured into, you know, doing stuff just because people don't want you to do it or whatever, but the potential backlash you might get. But I'm sure, if they traded Alonso when they were a game out of a wild card spot, I don't think a lot of people would be happy. But but obviously that's a discussion a month from now. Um, so we don't have to get wrapped up into all of that. But what we can get wrapped up into is the dominance of Francisco Alvarez, and he was the headliner in Game Two of this Subway Series, a 12-2 win for the New York Metropolitans, a blowout win against the New York Yankees. Sean Manaea got to start in this game. Also, a little bit of weird outing for him. He went 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, but he did have 5 walks and 3 strikeouts. And again, just like David Peterson, got into a bases loaded jam in the first inning and found his way out of it. But like I said, Francisco Alvarez was the headliner in this game. He went 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs. He had the home run off Luis Heel, who the Mets hit around pretty good in this game. So another good starter, the Mets were able to beat up. He also had the walk in this game. Alvarez had 3 walks in this series, which is interesting because we talk about Vientos and his chase rate. We saw Alvarez, particularly in the second half last year when he struggled, was chasing stuff. So his plate discipline has been really good since he's returned from the IL. And I mean, now the national media is starting to talk about Francisco Alvarez and the impact he's having on this team. Watching MLB Network, everyone's raving about Francisco Alvarez. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's too far fetched thing to say that when MLB Network next year has their top 10 at each position, whatever. I think there's a case to be made that Francisco Alvarez is a top 5 catcher in Major League Baseball at this moment.
I was I was wondering what you're gonna say. I thought you were gonna say top, and I think, ooh, there's some pretty darn good
There are
catches
some
in
pretty
the.
and they're all in the and they're mostly in the National League too. The Will Smiths, the JT Realmutos, but no, he's
Adley
he's
Rutschman.
he is on the he's on the path to be up with those guys, no doubt.
Yeah, if he keeps it up, I mean, it's still obviously after the injured list, he's been red hot, but we have seen him red hot, and we also have seen him struggle. Um, so if he can be consistently good, his slumps. We have seen last year that he had some good months, but he also had some terrible months. Um, but there are signs that his slumps will be um, not as big, and that's definitely what you said. We saw some pretty darn impressive at bats out of Francisco Alvarez getting behind an account early and still working out walks against good pitching, being successful right now. Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez, I think I said that to you on the chat as well. Um, 2 spots where we have struggled in recent years finding good young players, and that's the catching and that's third base. I think after David Wright, we didn't necessarily have a great third baseman. Um, so that spot is now covered for years. I would say maybe Mark Vientos, maybe Beatty, but I think you're good with that. And then Francisco Alvarez, another spot where the Mets have really struggled. Um, Having a good catcher in, and that's also now covered for years. So it's tremendous. It's tremendous that these two guys, not only for this year but definitely for years to come, have guaranteed us 2 spots in the lineup.
Yeah, especially with the case of Alvarez, because it was interesting when they drafted Kevin Parada, people were talking about, well, they got Francisco Alvarez in the system. And I'm not giving up on Kevin Parada, but he hasn't had the great season in Double A this year, but look at last year with Alex Ramirez in Brooklyn. He didn't have a great year, and this year he's been a lot better. So it's I think I know maybe not a fair comparison between those two because Ramirez is a younger prospect, but Prada's on the older side for prospects being a college draftee. But I'm not ready to give up on Kevin Parada. But let's say theoretically Prada doesn't pan out. Well, then your next guy maybe in the food chain for potential starting catcher, whatever, is Ronald Hernandez. But we know Ronald Hernandez is down in single A St. Lucie. He's still got a ways to go to work up. So the fact that Francisco Alvarez is starting to establish himself as one of the top catchers in Major League Baseball is huge for the Mets because it's, like you said, it's one less thing they really kind of have to worry about. They don't have to go out and spend money on a catcher in free agency to fill the void until someone's ready. Or the same thing for third base with the way Vientos has been playing. You don't need to go and sign Matt Chapman if he opts out of his deal with the Giants, something like that. So the fact that these two young guys are starting to establish themselves as solid major leaguers is huge for the team, and maybe they should start being more like the Atlanta Braves and hey, let's call Francisco Alvarez agent. Let's call Mark Vientos' agent. Let's see if we can get these guys. Let's dangle some money at them. See if we can lock them up in the long term. Obviously, easier said than done, but maybe those are some phone calls that the David Stearns and the Mets front office should perhaps start to be making, starting maybe in the off season.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money coming off the books, so it's definitely a way to have the money that you now saved be invested in your homegrown players. We know that we have been all for that. I think you and I have talked a lot about these type of moves, and the spice. I don't think if that's the right word, by the way, but despise the Atlanta Braves a bit for doing that. But it's more jealousy than actually hating the moves because they built such a long-term good team um, without spending that much money. So uh, I hope, definitely hope that the Mets are able to do it. And I have no doubt in my mind that Stearns will try. But I also always think that maybe some players just aren't going to take that. Maybe Alvarez did, maybe Pete Alonso um, is offered something. We know he got offered a contract extension last year, but he didn't take it. So who knows what has happened before that, or that Pete just said that he didn't want to do that. So there's always more behind it than the fans know. But I would definitely love if Francisco Alvarez and even Mark Vientos get him. You can buy some free agent years off them. I would be pleased.
Takes two to tango, so that's how the
Exactly.
negotiations work. And hopefully, maybe if David Stearns makes those calls, that Mark Vientos and his agent and Francisco Alvarez and his agent are willing to do that tango. So we'll see what happens there with those guys. Something to also note in this game, we talk about Alvarez's plate discipline. Vientos, with his chase rate obviously being down, he had two walks in this game and got an RBI out of it as well. So obviously good signs to see. We should give Harrison Bader some flowers as well. He hit two home runs in this series, so have to give credit where credit is due. Um, you know, some
Harrison Bader has an OPS over 750, by the way, right now. That's great for someone who's playing. He said that he needed and he wanted more playing time, and we had our opinion about that. He has listened. He has played really, really well lately.
I think we said something along the lines of if you want the playing time, you got to earn it. He's certainly been earning the playing time of late, so have to give credit where credit is due. Harrison Bader is playing good baseball right now for the New York Mets. Something to maybe it's not a big deal, but it was something that definitely caught my eye. We've been saying on this podcast we're advocates of look at what they do, don't listen to what they say. Actions speak louder than words. And they faced two righties in this series, Garrett Cole and Luis Heel, and Tyrone Taylor got both the starts. in right field and not DJ Stewart. They went with the right-handed guy over the left-handed bat. That was something that caught my eye, and I'm just wondering, obviously Marte is out. He's out for a while. They said, was it 2 weeks without baseball activities, and gonna have to ramp things back up. So it's gonna be a while until Starling Marte comes back for the Mets. So I didn't know if just losing if they wanted to have more of a defensive guy out there and Tyrone Taylor compared to DJ Stewart, but it was definitely something interesting for me anyway, because we know Stewart has the power. Obviously, he's not as well, it plays well defensively as Tyrone Taylor. Um, so I was it. Do you think that there's something there? Are we reading too much? Am I reading too much into that, or um, you know, what did you think about Taylor getting those starts over DJ Stewart?
I don't think necessarily much about it. I think it's more exactly what you mentioned. I think it's the difference between Tyrone Taylor and GJ Stewart lately offensively is probably not that much. Maybe even that Tyrone Taylor is hitting the ball better lately. I think in June he has been pretty darn good. Um, so yeah, I think if if the offensive potential is so close, why not go with a very good outfielder on an everyday basis? And that's Tyrone Taylor. Also think that probably Stewart is a better as a pinch hitter type guy than Tyrone Taylor. I think Tyrone Taylor fits better as an everyday guy in these kind of situations. So I think that's it. I don't. I just think Tyrone Taylor right now is a better fit for the everyday spot than DJ Stewart. You can play him in the field at some point a little bit, and he probably get a start in there at some point. But I don't see DJ Stewart and his defense as a 5 times a week type player.
Yeah, and I'm not upset about Tyrone Taylor getting the start. I'm a Tyrone Taylor guy. Um, I just thought it was interesting because I think the natural assumption was maybe they're just going to platoon, between Taylor and Stewart, and when there's a lefty, it's Tyrone Taylor. If it's a righty, it's DJ Stewart. So maybe that's just my maybe I just create expectations, and then when they went in this direction, it was kind of like, oh, I wonder if there's something there, perhaps, or are we reading too much into this? But sitting back, leaning back, thinking about it for a second, I think it has, like you said, more to do with if the offensive production is going to be about the same, who's going to be better out there defensively, and that's going to be Tyrone Taylor, 9 times out of 10. And do have to give Tyrone Taylor credit, 3-run home run in this second game, and was a big 3-run homer because the Yankees were starting to creep their way back in after the Judge 2-run homers, and so Taylor was a part of that onslaught after the rain delay to help just put this game away for the New York Mets. Um, so the Mets are back at 500, 39-39 after the Subway Series sweep. They've now won 3 in a row. So, like I said at the beginning, the good times are rolling in Queens. They're also rolling pretty well down in the Mets minor league system as well. So I think this is a good time for Corne to take over the show, as most people probably want him to, and keep us up to date on what's happening down on the farm.
I want to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
I love I love the vibes that the Mets are showing with the OMG, Jose Iglesias, yeah, those things with the hands that they are doing. But also, if you saw that clip from yesterday, um, it was fun to see this team um, having such good vibes right now. And I think that's definitely a big part of their success lately after that players only meeting. It was probably a way different vibe in the clubhouse before that players only meeting, and I think that really brought this team together. And um, it shows, and team is important. Uh, the good vibes in a clubhouse is important. We have seen that multiple times, and also have to give credit to the coaching staff because I definitely believe that they have something to do with that too. So that's one thing I wanted to add. And winning, obviously winning gives you good vibes, but they came from a spot that they weren't necessarily winning and just said, let's have fun and just play good baseball
Yeah.
and be accountable for your good or bad action.
I'm gonna no, like you had one more thing to say. Now I got one more thing to say before we jump down onto the farm. But you alluded to the coaching staff, whatever, and I just want to take a moment to really give props to Carlos Mendoza. I think definitely between the two of us when they announced Mendoza as the manager, I was very hesitant about it just because he was coming from a coaching staff that was run by Aaron Boone, and you know how I feel about Aaron Boone. I think he's a little bit of a buffoon. Um, but he is absolutely nothing like Aaron Boone. I think he's very mild mannered. He it's weird because he's got this calm presence about him. And I know people could kind of say the same thing about Luis Rojas, but I always felt Luis Rojas was more like a robot. Like he just didn't like show like really any emotion and whatnot very often. But Carlos Mendoza does show that emotion. You just think about the against the Cubs back in April, the play at home play. You saw him when he was running out. He was he defends his players. I he's got something about him, this calm presence. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. No, he just keeps the ship steady. And the players. He's obviously got the respect of the players, which is obviously huge for a manager. Um, I just got to give him the credit because I was very, like I said, skeptical about the hire. He's totally proven me wrong. It was so far, we still got some months left to play in this baseball. Or the Mets have months left to play in the baseball season. We don't. We're not playing the baseball games, but um, things can obviously change. We know the vibes are good right now, so maybe there's a little bit of that to it. But just a lot of credit to him. When they were at their low point, he didn't get down on the team or anything like that. He believed these guys and they are proving him right. And I think that also helps contribute to this Mets run where the players also want to do it for him. If he's out there, and he's just not giving off those, you know, he's saying things to the media that's maybe rubbing players the wrong way, whatever, maybe some guys kind of start to slip a little bit, but no one has. You hear them talk about the great communicator that he is and stuff along that line. So I just wanted to give Carlos Mendoza his flowers. He's done an excellent job this year in my mind, all around. Bullpen manipulation and stuff like that. So just wanted to give him his credit and say that I was very much wrong about the Mets manager.
Well, that's to our few listeners. This is something new. Andrew saying that he's wrong is not something we hear often. So I think this is already a very special episode. Shall I go with my Mets minor league minute?
You are good to go. Let's go down the farm. Hop on the tractor. Let's go on the farm.
All right, let's go. Dominican Summer League Mets. Giovanni Rodriguez had a much needed 2 for 4 day with a triple on Monday. Still struggled. Big piece that the Mets got a pretty big signing bonus last year. So hopefully it's a start for something better. Diogo Diaza, one of the youngest guys in this Mets organization, had back-to-back 2 for 4 days. Bowen Adderley struggled after his opening week, so good to see him have a 2 for 4, 2 RBI day. Rainer Reyes had hit his fourth home run of the season, still hitting the ball very well. Catcher Davison Gutierrez, who has improved a lot since last year, keeps hitting the ball well with a 947 OPS after a 565 OPS last year. So a big jump for Diverson Gutierrez. And on top of that, he's making his U.S. stateside debut because he has been promoted to the Florida Complex League. So that's interesting to see today because he will be debuting for the Florida Complex League. Jose Guevara, 19-year-old from Venezuela, has been tremendous. The righty allowed just one hit over 5 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts. He now has a 1.65 ERA. And Levi Rodriguez was seen as a player to watch by Ben Badler. I think he's from Baseball America. He pitched well over 4 innings, allowing just 2 hits, 2 unearned runs with 6 strikeouts. Also have to give credit to @BKFan09, who provides some great information about the Dominican Summer League and the Florida Complex League match. So a good follow for everybody who's listening. Um, go follow him. Florida Complex League match, Shintaro Fujinami with a perfect inning in his rehab stint with a strikeout. And Jeremy Rodriguez went 2 for 5 in an RBI. He has been struggling lately, so good to see him have a good day. St. Lucie Mets, Boston Barrow with a couple of good days, going 7 for 13 with a double. A.G. Ewing did 2 doubles in a 2 for 4 day on Tuesday and another 2 for 4 day with a double on Thursday. Talented Willie Vanas, who is young but still having trouble in St. Lucie, went 2 for 4 with a double and 2 RBIs on Wednesday. And St. Lucie got home runs from Colin Houck, his third, and Vincent Perosa, his first on Thursday. Brooklyn, Jesus Baez made his Brooklyn debut. He hit a double in his first game and a 2 for 4 day on Thursday. Good start for the young Baez. Jonathan was awesome, going 6 innings of 1-1 ball, allowing just 2 hits and a walk with a tremendous 11 strikeouts, 3.38 ERA for Tom, who is having his breakout year. Kate Morris was also solid. He went 6 innings of 2-run balls, striking out 7 for the Cyclones. And Binghamton got 2 hit days from Alex Ramirez, Kevin Parada, and newly acquired Duke Ellis and JT Schwartz on Thursday. Schwartz also ended the game with a tremendous play after the ball bounced on first base. She still had to dive and just got the ball to Paul Gervais quick enough. Definitely a play that is worth looking back on the Rumble Ponies X. Brandon Sprout was good besides not having many strikeouts. He went 6 quarters but struck out just 3. Obviously, you take that type of start, but still noticeable that he struck out just 5 over his last 2 starts. Syracuse, Brad Beatty with his 6, 7, and 8 home run for Syracuse. He keeps raking in AAA and playing second base. He's now hitting .348 with a 1148 OPS. Bannon, Cortez, Thomas, and Ritter also homered on Tuesday. Cortez had a 3-hit, 3 RBI day on Wednesday. And as we are talking about Bannon and Ritter who homered, let's do something I forgot last week. It pains me to do it because Bannon has taken the lead over Ritter in OPS, 866 to 852. Not a good week for me. Andrew is killing it all over today on the podcast, and his him being that humble, he probably won't mention it. So I have to do it for him. Acuna keeps hitting the ball well. 2 more multi-hit days over the last 4 games. Christian Scotland, 4 innings of run ball. Another run on the home run ball, which is a little bit funny that it's almost always the home run ball that Christian Scott allows runs on. He allowed 4 hits, 3 walks with 3 strikeouts. Wilkin Ramos had 2 more scoreless innings as he only hit 1 batter, striking out 2. He has been utterly dominant this year. Mike Vassell was solid over 6 innings, allowing 3 runs on 6 hits without issuing a walk. He struck out 8. And Dominic Hamill also had a strong start. He struck out 9 over 7 innings. He did allow 4 runs, but 3 were earned on 7 hits and a walk. Still a very strong outing for Hamill, who struggled this year in AAA with a 6.64 ERA. That was it.
Just, just gonna just soak in that fact that Rylan Bannon has surpassed Luke Ritter in the OPS battle right now. So just gonna enjoy that for the time being because now Luke Ritter is gonna hit 3 home runs this weekend, and which is not a bad thing. Which is not a bad thing at
No,
all.
we don't. I don't hate Bannon. You don't hate Ritter.
No,
It's just a fun thing we do, people. It's just a fun thing. We always have to find battles somewhere. We are men. We do that.
that's right. It's the testosterone in us.
Exactly.
Well, we talk about the good times the Mets are having right now. the fans, everyone. The same could be said for the Houston Astros, who have also gotten back to 500, and they are in town for a weekend series against the New York Mets, arguably the two hottest teams in Major League Baseball, squaring off at Citi Field for an exciting weekend series. No Justin Verlander, he's on the IL, so maybe there's a little bit of a buzzkill there. If you know if he was going to make a potential start in this series or not, but um, still got some good pitchers throwing in this series. It all starts tonight on Apple TV Plus. So if you have Apple TV, you're all good. If you don't, um, you might have to go phone a friend and steal their account or something like that if you want to watch the game. Uh, Ronel Blanco gets to start for the Houston Astros tonight. He's been probably their best story this year, going up against Jose Quintana, who, knock on wood, has been pitching well of late for the New York Mets. So hopefully Quintana can keep that rolling tonight. Tomorrow, Saturday, got Framber Valdez throwing for the Houston Astros. I should mention Friday tonight is a 7:10 first pitch, and Saturday is 4:10 with Framber Valdez pitching for the Houston Astros as Tylor McGill goes for the Mets, looking to bounce back after probably his worst start of the season so far against the Cubs. So McGill back at home, maybe that'll help him out. He's not pitching at Wrigley Field. He's pitching in a more pitcher-friendly ballpark. And then Sunday, it is TBD for the Houston Astros at the moment. We are recording this, but we do know Luis Severino is scheduled to get the ball for the New York Mets, coming off a tremendous outing last Sunday against the Chicago Cubs. So, Astros throwing some good arms those first two games. Mets also got their best arm going on Sunday. They got a hot arm going in Quintana Friday night. So, some interesting choices to be made for player of the series. You get the pitcher this week, correct? Yeah. You get the pitcher, I get
No,
the hitter. So we, like you said early, we always go pitching first. So you, who do you think's gonna have a good outing or outings? Because you might go reliever. Who knows?
I go reliever and don't go. I don't go reliever. I think it's Luis Severino on Sunday. Salvaging the rubber game if we don't do the predictions of the series, but that's how I think it's gonna go. I think he's gonna pitch a good ball game and help the Mets win the series.
Well, I feel it's fitting. He might only get one start in this series, perhaps, but his new hit single is going to drop today,
Yeah,
officially. So why not give some love for Jose Iglesias, perhaps to start Saturday against Framber Valdez, get a couple knocks off him, and just be singing OMG the whole weekend at City Field, perhaps throwing those hands up in the air like you just don't care. Man, that I
yeah.
sounded really white when I said that, didn't I?
No, that sounded awful, but that's okay.
So let's say Jose Iglesias has a big game in one of these games. So
Yeah, I all for it, Andrew. I'm all for it.
well, you got to go outside the box. You can't be like, well, let's just roll the hot hand and Mark Vientos or Francisco. Like, we like to be different when we can be.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It has to be possible. Exactly.
So
But right now, with how the bullpen is, I could go with Adcock or anything like that, but maybe Reed Garrett has a nice outing, but it's probably not. Um, no, I think we need our starters to be good in this series, so that's why I picked the starter. Maybe a little bit boring, but I think there's a lot of uh, riding on them for a successful series.
for sure, especially with well, it's good they had the off day on Thursday because they were unfortunately didn't get much length from their starters against the Yankees. More maybe Mania was more because of the rain delay because I think he was in like the mid 70s, so you figured that he would maybe get the sixth inning. And unfortunately, Peterson had his walk issues on Tuesday, so they weren't able to get much length out of the starters, especially with the being short an arm in the bullpen roster wise, but really down three of your best arms in the bullpen. Um, length from starters is going to be key. We know Severino is definitely capable of doing that when he's on. So a good start from Sevy on Sunday. Uh, we're all for it. If there's a Met fan that doesn't want to see that, they're not really a Met fan.
Then it's Frank.
That's right. I would probably agree with that very much so. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up here for episode 22 of the Queen's Connection. And before we go, because Corne did say some nice things about me, I will have to say it does seem like on our social medias we are gaining some more interaction from people, which is always very good to see. But he is what I've dubbed the content distributor. So he's doing a very good job getting the
Yeah,
content out there. So I do have to give you your flowers for that. As we know, you're trying to grow the podcast, which is and it looks like we've gotten some good comments from people as well, which is always good to hear. So, but it's all because you're taking the initiative to distribute the content we are producing. So I do have to give you your flowers for that.
thank you, Andrew.
Well, now I'm going to go wash my mouth out with soap. I feel disgusting.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Cornet. We pushed the recording back to accommodate schedules and everything, but we made it work. And I think I don't want to toot our own horn, but I think we put together another good episode.
I think so too.
So, well,
Time to eat.
time to eat. I'm always down to eat for sure. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up here. This has been episode number 22 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patent Sports Creative. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, X, whatever, Facebook. Just search the Queen's Connection. We'll bound to pop right up. Be one of the first things you see. We post links to the full episodes. We post clips, all that good stuff. So, when you see it, drop a comment, we want to interact with people. So make sure to do that when you see it. Well, maybe depends on the comment. Maybe maybe a little bit. But all right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Enjoy this weekend series against the Houston Astros. We'll talk to you before a big 4-game series against the Washington Nationals starting next Monday. But enjoy the weekend against the Houston Astros.